Hi, welcome to this video about research papers. This is the first of two videos that I'm going to make for you. This video will have just the basic formatting things that you need to have in all research papers. The second video will focus on citations and bibliographies, but this one's mostly about formatting your paper. The first thing that I want to teach you is that you have to have a header on all research papers. They need to have a header. A header is text that is printed on every page of a document, but you only have to create it one time because you create it in the header space and then it repeats throughout the document. I can get into the header space two ways. One way is just to simply double click up here at the top of the document. And there I have my flashing cursor in the header space. You can see the header indicator there. And now I can just type whatever I need. First, I need to let you know, though, that for research papers, and this is the MLA style of research papers that I'm talking about, it requires having a right-aligned header. So in order to right-align my cursor, I will click on the Home tab of the ribbon. Then I'll go into the paragraph group, and I'll click on the Right Alignment button. And that jumps my cursor over to the right edge. Now I can type the header. What's required for MLA style is the last name of the student, followed by a space, followed by a page number. So we can see that Oswald Carter is the name of the student on this paper. So I will type Carter. I'll tap my space bar, and now I need to insert a page number. I'll click the Insert tab on the ribbon, and then over here there's a button for page numbering. I'll click on that one time, and then I'll tell the computer that I would like the page number to be in the current position. I want it to go where my cursor is currently flashing. I don't want it at the top of the page. Well, actually, I do want it at the top of the page, but I want it specifically where my cursor is flashing. And I want it to be a plain number. No extra bells or whistles, just a plain number. So I'll click on that option. Now I have the student's last name, followed by a space, then with the page number itself. I can get out of the header a couple of ways. I could close the header by clicking the Design tab on the ribbon and closing the header button here. That's one way to do it. Or I also could have just clicked down into the header, I could have just clicked down into the body of the document. I also didn't show you the other way to get into the header is to click the Insert tab and click the Header button. And that offers you a lot of different options, but they're all a bit too fancy for what we want here. This top one would have been okay, but really all we had to do was double click in the header, and then we could also double click to get out. Pretty easy. The next thing we need to do, let me show you this whole page here. This is just the beginning of a research paper being written by this student. The next thing I want to do is I want to remove the spacing after paragraphs. So let me zoom in here a little more again. I want to show you that every time this student pressed his Enter key, he created a paragraph. On the Home tab, in the paragraph group, there's a button here called the Show Hide button. And if I click on that, it shows me every time this student pressed his Enter key. Here and here and here and here. All these places are where he pressed his Enter key. And to the computer, each of these times he defined a paragraph. Even though these may not look like paragraphs, to the computer, this is 4 paragraphs, 5, including the title. We don't want these spaces after the paragraphs because we're going to have to double space this document in a minute. And that will kind of mess things up to have both things going on at the same time. So I'm going to highlight the entire document, and then on the Home tab, in the paragraph group, I'm going to find this button called Line and Spacing, and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to tell the computer that I want to remove the spaces after paragraphs. I don't want those blank lines after each paragraph. Now I've done it. Now I have no more spacing there after each paragraph. So now I can apply double spacing and it's not going to be all messy. So again on the Home tab, again in the paragraph group, again on the line and paragraph spacing button, I'll click and I'll tell it I want double space. I want the 2.0 double space option. I'll click on that and there we go. Now I have double spaced all the text in this document. There are no more spaces after paragraphs. This is according to the MLA requirements for your research paper. So let's do a couple more things here. We would like to center align the title, and I can simply do that by clicking anywhere in the title. I could be here, I could be at the beginning, doesn't really matter. I'll go to the Home tab of the ribbon, again in the paragraph group, and I'll click on the Center Alignment button right here, and that center aligns my title. Now, when we did all this with removing the space after paragraphs and then double spacing the text, that worked very well, and it's what we need to have. But it is a little hard to tell where one paragraph begins and then ends, and then another one begins, etc. So what I want to do is I want to highlight all the existing text. Whoa, went speeding down there. And now that I have all the text highlighted below the title, I'm going to indent the first line of every paragraph. I'm going to do that on my horizontal toolbar here, my horizontal ruler bar here. There are three little handles over here on the left, and they're used for creating indents. And I want to use the top one, which is going to indent the first line of each paragraph. So I'll drag that top tool over and let go. And now look how good that is. Now it's really clear where each paragraph begins and ends. If by any chance you don't have the ruler bar showing here at the top of your screen, you can turn it on by clicking the View tab on your ribbon and then making sure that ruler is checkmarked. See how that turns it on and off? I like to leave it on because I use it quite frequently. Now the next thing we're going to do is create a footnote. A footnote is a comment at the bottom of the page referring back into the document somewhere. So in your document, you may have a statement or a paragraph or a sentence, and you may have an aside. It's a comment that you don't want to actually place into the paragraph, but you do want the reader to know that you are providing this information. And we are going to create a footnote that pertains to this first sentence of the second paragraph. In order to create a footnote, you have to click where you want the footnote reference number to show. When we create a footnote, we're going to create a number inside our text, and then there will be a corresponding footnote with a number down below the text. And I'm, by the way, going to turn off that Show Hide button because I don't need it right now. Let me zoom in a little bit just to make sure you can see where I have my flashing cursor. It's after the period after the sentence. It's before the space and before the next sentence. To insert a footnote, I'll click the References tab on my ribbon, and I'll click the big fat Insert Footnote button. And when I click on that, two things happen simultaneously. I get the reference number. Here's the reference number 1. It's my first footnote. So there's the reference number. And simultaneously, it put a line here to separate the body of the text from the footnote text, which is now waiting for me to type the footnote. And I'll do that. Okay, there's my footnote. Boy, I didn't make any typos. That's unusual. Usually I make a mistake. Okay, so now I have a footnote at the bottom of page 1, and it's referring back up to this area here. And you know what's really interesting? Look what happens when I point at that reference. It shows me the footnote in a flyover. How cool is that? Really cool. So this is pretty much everything I wanted to tell you. The last thing I'll tell you is that for the MLA research paper style, you have to have 1-inch margins around the top, bottom, right, and left sides of your document. And to check that, you would go to the Layout tab of your ribbon. But, you know, the problem was I was in the footnote. I go to the Layout tab of your ribbon, click on the Margins button, and here it tells me that I have 1 inch all the way around. If you have an earlier version of Word, this is version 2016 that I'm using. If you have 2013 or an even earlier version, you might not have 1 inch all the way around as your normal setting, and you may have to choose a different margin setting to get that. It is an MLA requirement. So I'm done with this little video. I showed you how to put in a header. We looked at how to remove spacing after paragraphs. We looked at the Show Hide button. We double spaced the entire document. We aligned the title. We put first line indents on every paragraph. And we added a footnote at the bottom of page 1. Congratulations, you made it through the first video.